It's a beautiful morning here in our studios, and good morning to all our beautiful viewers from wherever you might be watching us. It's another pleasure to host yet another episode of your fascinating, interactive, educating, and of course entertaining and interactive session of your Good Morning Africa program that comes your way every week from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And today in the studios with me, I have my colleague, co-host, of course, Yankuba Touray, who, of course, I hijacked her spot, but I did justice by inviting her to serve as a co-host. My name is Sohna Tunkara, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you this morning. So, Yankuba Touray, thank you so much for coming, and welcome to Good Morning Africa.
Thank you so much, Sohna. It's a pleasure to be here with you on the Good Morning Africa program. Like you said, initially, it is a very interactive one, interesting, and most of all, it is a very educative session that we are going to have this morning. So good morning to the wonderful viewers. Thank you so very much for coming along with us on the Good Morning Africa program. It comes from Monday to Friday from the hours of 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And of course, I am Yankuba Touray. And today I am very happy that Sohna is hosting me. You know, don't go away because the session is going to be very interesting today.
I'm happy as well to have you here in the studios. This program is something that always fascinates me a lot because it talks on current issues that are of pertinent importance towards our national development. It involves Gambians and even non-Gambians. So as we always do it in this program, we have three segments of this program. We first review our stories that are being filed by our able reporters, and we invite guests that help on expatiate on our discussions. And we also have the newspaper review, wherein a colleague journalist will also join here in the studios to review what other journalists have written on the newspapers. So to begin with, I'll go with an update of COVID-19, which was filed in by Ndaisise, and the story reads: following months of decline in the number of coronavirus cases in the Gambia, new infection cases are on the rise as the third wave hits the country. And the latest figures from the Ministry of Health appear to show that country has recorded 86 new confirmed cases in just 2 days. Ndaisise tells us more.
As nations are conducting rapid vaccination programs, the number of coronavirus cases are on the decline globally. But with recent achievements, some countries are being hit with the third wave of the pandemic. The Gambia is one of them. Despite launching of nationwide vaccinations, cases are skyrocketing in recent weeks, with 86 fresh cases recorded between 11 and 12 July. The total number of confirmed cases in the country now stands at 6,414 and 185 deaths since the confirmation of the first case in March 2020. According to the latest situational report from the Ministry of Health, 5,900 people have recovered from the virus, with over 300 active cases. However, cases in many countries are surging, and the shortage of the AstraZeneca vaccine is becoming an issue. As a result, many are scared to receive any vaccine dose apart from AstraZeneca. In the Gambia, over 31,000 people have received their jab of the AstraZeneca vaccine, while little over 12,300 are fully vaccinated. With a population of 2.3 million people, the Gambia has received 36,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine under the COVAX program. Authorities in 221 countries and territories have reported about 187.9 million COVID-19 cases and 4.1 million deaths since China reported its first case in December 2019. As the pandemic has spread across the globe, the virus has left a trail of deaths in its wake. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Ndaisise.
Well, it's very unfortunate that the Gambia still continues to record new cases of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's so sad that this country has relaxed on some of its major stringent measures that were implemented by the World Health Organization and, of course, our Ministry of Health as well. Now that the Gambia continues to record new cases, the measures have been relaxed. People are on their daily business without observing any of these protocols. And here is the predicament of our own negligence, that we are not observing any of these measures. We always interact with people without wearing our face masks. We are always in gatherings. We've just neglected literally all the stringent measures, and this is not just only based on the citizenry. Even our government officials, we have seen them in numerous occasions being involved in crowded places and organizing events that, of course, most of these measures are not being observed. So, Juldan Jai Soiree, this is something that is of, it calls for a great concern, because as the election approaches and many other events are on the line waiting for us, and the Gambia continues to record more COVID-19 cases. And this, of course, it cannot do away with the negligence of our own authorities. And now even citizens are not observing these measures. Do you think they are setting good example when it comes to them observing their own measures that was implemented by themselves?
Well, I don't think so. It's a collective responsibility that all of us have to play. And of course, considering that the fact that the COVID-19 is here and it is here to stay, and now it is even deadly because it's the Delta variant, and the Delta variant is even deadlier than the COVID-19 global pandemic, because most at times, the patients or the people that have the Delta variants, they are asymptomatic. So it's very difficult to detect whether they are having the virus or not. That is why it has led to the deaths of thousands and thousands of people in the world. So Gambia is not an exception. Of course, we are having experience in our third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. In recent months, few months ago, we all thought that the COVID-19 is done and, dusted in the Gambia here, and we all went about our normal businesses. But now it is telling us that it is back, and now it is more contagious and it is more dangerous. So it is only, prudent for all of us to be really cautious on the, COVID-19 and adhere to the COVID-19 guidelines that are set aside by the World Health Organization and, of course, the Ministry of Health. It's a collective responsibility. Of course, in the Gambia, most of the times, people dispel the fact that COVID-19 is even real in the country. Sure. That was a challenge for all of us to, actually make people understand that COVID-19 is real. But now, for the fact that, the cases were down and then people went about their normal businesses, to make people realize and adhere to this COVID-19 guidelines would be very difficult.
And the cases, they have rise significantly, because it is 86 cases that have been confirmed. That is a lot.
It's really a lot. It's really a lot, considering the fact that the size of the country and, considering the history of COVID-19 in the Gambia, you realize that, 86 cases, it's really a high number for us. But in other countries, that is not, because they experience thousands and thousands every day. But for the Gambian case, it is really something that is new. And considering the fact that I am really particular about the COVID-19, the Delta variant of COVID-19, and people should really adhere to these COVID-19 measures. I think this is a moment where the Ministry of Health should really, come up, talk to people again, to reaffirm their commitment in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course to remind people of the COVID-19 guidelines and all that.
And we have seen countries like Europe and even Asia, just a particular example could be set in India, they've lost thousands of lives. And when we are to measure their medical advancement, we cannot stand next to them, and they find it very difficult to fight this coronavirus pandemic. And here we are as a small country with underdeveloped medical facilities that we have, and we are not observing any of these things.
And
so
the worst part of it, Sohna, is the fact that all those who even took the COVID-19 vaccine, they only took the first jab of the vaccine.
And the second jab was not taken.
And
now we are out of stock as well. So
it's a problem, man.
It's a big problem on our side. It's really a big problem on our side, and I believe the authorities are going to take this very seriously, and they will come up with more stringent measures to make sure that the cases don't go up again, and they maintain and surface everything to the latter stage. So we will go with another story which was filed in by Fatmata Khadija Tuseka rather, and it was based on the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission. And the Commission on Tuesday awarded its major partners for supporting the mandate of the Commission for their past 3 years. Institutions such as the United Nations and the International Center for Transitional Justice and the Catholic Relief Services were handed their certificates of appreciation. She tells us more in this report.
In December 2017, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission was established with the mandate to investigate and produce a historical record of the nature, causes, and intent of violation of human rights under the rule of former President Jammeh. The commission was staffed to pave the way for reparation and reconciliation engagements on the basis of the Never Again slogan. Barely a month after the completion of the public hearing, and few days to the much-anticipated delivery of its recommendations, the TRRC decided to award major partners for their support and commitment to the mandate of the Commission. Of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, Adelaide Sose used this opportunity to define the role of the TRRC partners.
You walked the talk with us. You felt our pain, and you accompanied us when we were down, when we needed resources, when we needed technical advice, when we just needed a word of comfort. The individual staff members were always there to guide, to support, and to just be there for us. Grateful. The TRRC, as it closes, would want not only your institutions, but the Gambia and the world at large to know that we value the help that you give, we appreciate it, and we acknowledge it.
Director of Administration and Human Resources, Hadi Jallo, said the group identified for the award have lived the test of time with exceptional support to the TRRC.
We have selected 5 major donors, and the underlining word being major donors. Because if we want to say we're going to give awards to every single person that has helped the TRRC in one way or another, then I guess we'll be here the whole day. But we have chosen 5 major donors, and we want the whole world to know what they have done and contributed to the success of the TRRC. Without these 5 donors, it would have been very difficult for us to actually complete our mandate. And I will start with the UN system. The UN system has been with us from the get-go. They basically, as soon as the TRRC Act came, they actually came and said, you know what, let us work with you guys. And they have started from the beginning, and they're actually still working with us.
The UN resident coordinator, Sarafine Wakana, expressed happiness in welcoming the award as she hopes for a longer partnership that will see the implementation of recommendations from the TRRC. Ms. Wakana received the UN award as both an honor and in recognition of the great work done by the TRRC in the Gambia.
The TRRC in the Gambia has been an example for different countries. It's cited in all the meetings when we talk about reconciliation, when we talk about reparation, when we talk about never again. So for us, I believe the partnership that we built with the TRRC will also serve as an example for other work we are still doing. And as the UN resident coordinator, I want to commit myself and the entire UN in the Gambia that we are supporting the TRRC. We are waiting for the report. And we will be happy to support and continue. We are really eager to see the implementation of the recommendations from the report you are going to submit.
On May 28th, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission concluded public session after 871 days of hearing that involved testimonies from 992 witnesses with harrowing and sometimes inspirational tales of dictatorship. The TRRC confirmed that at least 250 people were sent to their graves on the orders of former President Yahya Jammeh, who ruled the Gambia from July 1994 to January 2017. He was forced into exile to Equatorial Guinea after his defeat in 2016 presidential election that brought in Adama Barrow as coalition leader. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
Thank you so much, Khadija Seka, for that beautiful report on matters of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission. It is always amazing to appreciate the efforts of others. It actually helps them to boost their commitment and their confidence, especially when it involves matters that have to do with national development. The TRRC has been a long journey. It lasted for almost like 3 years, and we've had a whole lot of testimonies that were filed in by various individuals that were either victimized or that were that had to pass through some frustrating ordeals during the former regime of Yahya Jammeh. But then again, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commissioners were also so helpful during the process. They were all able to listen to all the witnesses that testified during the process. And it's always amazing to also have our able uncle here in the studios with us, Uncle Nyang. Jërëjëf si teewaay bi ñu jaajëfal la si noo ñëwee on Good Morning Africa te ñu bàyyi la podium bi nga nuyuwante ak sun audience yi.
jërëjëf soxna maa ngi lay nuyu di la ziare si suba si di nuyu itam madame Souare xam nga temps yi moom mooy loolu waaye tane na rek di nuyu ñi seetaan Eye Africa TV si réew mi ak si biti réew mi yëpp. di leen wax good morning jàmm ngeen fanaan. soxna nuyu naa la bu baax.
maa ngi laa fay Uncle Nyang. yow daal sa teewaay fii it's always appreciated.
Thank you.
So gis nañ report bu Fatmata Kasim file on with regards to matters of the TRRC. gars yi dañ leen award some certificate pour at least delloo leen jukkal si seen hard working bu ñu def throughout the 3 years period bu gars yi doon déglu nit ñi di testify on things that happened to them during Yahya Jammeh's regime. yow luy sa gis-gis si lii.
waaw li gis-gis si askan bi rek mooy apprécier nañ ko because mbootaay la ko xam na ni mu ngi doon def liggéey bu nga xam ne dafa àndoon ak risque. because jël oncle yi jàmbur wala papi jàmbur yóbbu ko si plateforme di ko laajte yéen a defoon lii oo ñoo defoon lii so liggéey boobu nekkutoon liggéey bu ndaw te jëloon nañ seen responsabilité def ko si ni ko yoon santaane ba nga xam ne ni jeex na lii comme noo ko waxee si gannaaw. loolu lu am solo la wante itam dañoo delloo njikkal li nga xam ne mooy askani Gambia because lii di TRRC xëy na ci beneen réew bu mu xewoon. dégg nga attaque yi am waaye bu léegi famille si victime famille ak ñi nga xam ne ñoom ñoo doon def ñëpp seen famille si ñoom ñëpp ñu ngi toog do ànd ak yar ak teggin di sàmm luwaa bi. doon déglu liggéey TRRC ba nga xam ne léegi pare na li si des mooy jébbal ko ñi nga xam ne ñoo nekk si bopp réew mi askan boobu ñooy njukkalaat seen bopp ñooy delloowaat seen bopp ñooy sargalaat seen bopp because si dal gi ñu am ak muñ gu ñu am si ñetti at yi nga xam ne TRRC mu ngi koo liggéey. te am si ñaawteef yi nga xam ne amoon na te si ñum amoon ñooñu borom njaboot leen njaboot googu ñu ngi dal àndoon ak luwaa. so loolu askani Gambie fokk yeneen réew yi sax delloo leen si njukkal askan boobu la ñoo njëkkaa delloo njukkal si dal googu ñu àndaloon si diiri ñetti at ak lu teg ba gis ne les TRRC liggéey bu leen waroon def neen ko loolu nag liggéey luwaa moo leen fa tegoon. te ñu bëri rafetlu leen li nga xam ne noonu leen doxale ñëpp mënuñ si ànd because ku nga xam ne ni mais bi yow yaa doon di def lu nga xam naka sudut noonu yow loolu àdduna du mun a neex ba nga ànd ak liggéey bi nga xam ne mooy TRRC. boot nag TRRC bi nekk na liggéey bu am na solo pour ñu takkal raaya ñi nga xam ne ñoo ko doon liggéey waaye dafa nekk liggéey bu nga xam ne Gambia war nañ see jàngee lu bëri waxuma la Gambia rek pot àddina bi wala Afrique mun nañ see jàngee lu bëri. te jàngee nañ si lu bëri spécial yi ñi nga xam ne ñooy serviceman because ñoo si gën a bëri ak ñiy liggéey si nguur gi ba tey sax soo xoolee rek di nga xam ne su nekkoon na TRRC bi tey am na ñu nga xam ne loolu moo leen tënk ba lu bëri sax ñemeetuñ koo def ñun ñu ngi dem si sécurité bi ñu gis. problème yi dee am booba ak nu ñu daan réacté ak léegi su problème amee naka leen di dalee kon dafa mel ni TRRC bi am na lu mu jàngal réew mi am na lu mu jàngal Afrique soo moo tax nekk na lu nga xam ne liggéey bu am solo loolu. liggéey la bu nga xam ne ni dafa amoon solo trop dina tax nit ñi bàyyi seen xel ëllëg te xam ne liggéeyu nguur saxul soo warloo nekk si nguur kenn du def loo naka su dul noonu ñëpp dañu war a tënku si loi jaar si loi def lu loi santaane su ko defee ëllëg nguur googu su jeexee nga mën a toog fële suturaal sa njaboot suturaal sa bopp dundaat si réew mi soo loolu dafa nekk lu nga xam ne lu am solo la te bu fekkoon wàccewoon nañ yoon bi TRRC delloo sunu askan bi si ko
te lu gën a ite woon sa si TRRC bi mooy baalalante bi.
waaw
da nga gis ñeneen they committed some atrocities waaye famille bi jox nañ foofu noonu wax nañ leen ñu baalal leen. te jéegal nañ leen si seen jéego yu gaay def so loolu dafa nekk lu nga xamante ne dafa dawoon yaram nag. ndaxte métti na pour nga rey papi jàmbur magi jàmbur o yaayi jàmbur. waaye tamit soo demee foofu noonu nga admit sa mistake nga accept sa mistake ba pare nga baalu leen ñu baalal la loolu dafa nekk lu nga xam ne daf day release a lot of burden on you.
lu am solo nga wax soxna because am na yu bëri yuñ fa fekkee gis nañ fa bu OJ mu former inspecteur général bi ku nekk Basse right now mu baalal kooku nga xam ne mooy Soriba bi ne ko ne soo génnee sax soo amul fu mu dëkk mun naa laa jox foo dëkk soo dangaa gis na nag li loo génnewu si sa xol du mus a jeex lii mun na wax ne su amutoon dangaa toog rek nga dégg balom bi na pëpp because waaye am na ñu nga xam ne that day bi ñu demee TRRC génne lu leen naxari keroog lu jeex moo tax ñuy upset baalante axa boobu def ko tam si aada guru la ñoo jënd def ko si leket bu njëkk boole amutoon leket moo amoon ma riit ne ñoom tam ay mag ñoo fa nekk def neen lu baax a baax def neen dund neen aada ak cosaan bi bu baax a baax soo baalante axa bi loolu moo si des fokk réew mi ñu ñëpp ñu baalante axa xol yi nekk benn réew mu mun a dem parce que réew mi soxna réew mu ndaw la te lu suma sëriñ de wax mu ne soo fi yóbboo nit koot bu ñëpp taxawee mbokk yi xàmmewante amul benn weneen bu famille bi taxawee famille bi taxaw rek bàyyi foos bu ñu génnee dina am ñu si néewante benn nga xam sa xarit wala ma xam sa unkul wala nga xam suma nangam soo kon Gambie dafa jaxaso bu nga xam ne ni léegi lu si des nag moo ñu baalante axa den nag jublu si jëm kanami réew mi parce que loolu nag moo war ku ne te responsabilité ku nekk daf si nekk
te Julde, I will come to you as well. A lot of revolutions has been made and it was so very difficult for some people to consume, but despite all that they were able to go with calm. They listened to their legal minded people and they did not even take the laws into their hands. So that is something that is so commendable to all Gambians that were victimized during the former regime of Yahya Jammeh, right?
Yeah, quickly, it's a history. Gambia definitely made history on that, considering the fact that all the atrocities that were committed here during the 22-year rule of former President Yahya Jammeh, like many people said, and of course what we heard from the TRRC. But what is important is sometimes people will come and tell us that this is what really happened or this is what occurred, and everybody will be shocked to know that it really happened in our smiling coast of Africa, which is the Gambia. But of course it has happened, and now what is left is for the recommendations to be implemented, and Gambians are waiting on that. And TRRC, it's not only a justice making center, but of course it's a center for reconciliation and reparation as well. So it's very important. Now people are waiting what is next. But I think all of this, what is important to Gambians is to reconcile and go back to normal as one people, one Gambia.
Indeed, it's very important to live in harmony as brothers and sisters while we await for the recommendations that we have filed in by the commission that needs to be approved by the president, of course, and his executive. We now look at another major story that was filed in by our reporter, and the story reads: the majority leader of the National Assembly looked into the pending matters to be adequately responded by various ministers. Kebake Barrow spoke on the presence of hippos in the village of Nyani and Janjambure, which in recent years has threatened lives of farmers and their plantations. Here is more of that in this report.
Despite their threats to lives of the farmers, hippopotamus are the third largest terrestrial mammals in the ecosystem. Over the years, the lawmakers have raised concern over the safety of farmers and their crops from the jaws of these big creatures from rural communities in the Central River region. But it appears to the majority leader of the House, Kebake Barrow, that the hippo stories are only told when there is already a disaster.
But one other thing is the hippos. Nyani and Janjambure are always talking about these hippopotamus. And the Ministry of Environment is saying that these are endangered species and they need to be protected. But what are they doing to ensure that the farmers also are not, their farms are not destroyed and seedlings are done at the end of the harvest, they go home with nothing. I think those are key issues that the minister needs to look into.
Time to time, these wild animals would choose to walk out their survival of the river, creating panic among the population. Residents in Janjambure and her surrounding rely on Gambia Army to suppress tension whenever the hippo is out and about on their fields. Honorable Barrow shifted some attention on the implementation of policies needed to develop national languages through the formal education system.
Another area that was also looked at, the issue of non-formal education. I think this is very important, and we are running into the fourth year now. Our experts in the National Assembly are still talking about this. So I think it is high time that the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and Higher Education come up with a linguistic policy that will help us to be able to learn about our national languages. Because children learn these things at the early age. If they are not able to do these things properly, it is going to be very difficult for them to catch up. Because in some of the rural areas, we still do not have early childhood education programs. But we have very good policies on national languages that will help these things. And I think that needs to be revived, and AMFIL has to come on board, and they need to expand that area.
The National Assembly member for Combo South enjoined ministers to adopt the state media as medium of communication on all executive activities to keep the people informed.
The GSM operators and the cheating that they are doing here, but the coordination between the ministries also. Information is not flowing between the land ministries, so they don't know what X and Y is doing. And I think the ministry need to coordinate that and be able to put everything together so that we use the national broadcaster GRTS in all activities that we are doing, so that the population is informed, and that will enable us to know the programs and activities at the level of both ministries, departments, and agencies in this country.
During the session, ministers took the floor to answer to questions by parliamentarians on different national development matters. Among the bills debated for enactment are the ones on access to information and the much-awaited Persons with Disability Bill. Khadijatu Seka, iAfrica News.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful report. Hippos are like, they are very stubborn. They always disturb our farmers. I don't know what they want from us. We are so much engaged into agriculture, and anything that we want to thrive into it to at least earn our living and make our lives better, these wildlife continue to serve as a calamity, to serve as a barrier in our development. Julden Jai, this is not the first time lawmakers have been talking with regards to the government to protect farmers from hippos invading in their respective farms. Here they are again yesterday. They spoke on the matter again, and still now nothing has been done. And vast majority of Gambians are very much involved in agriculture. Considering the poverty rate of this country, many of us engage into agriculture to at least earn our living. And if hippos are serving as barrier from us getting what we want, I think the government should really consider this, because it is very pertinent. It is something that has been affecting our forefathers. It even boils down to our generation, and we've been talking about it, and we are not going to relent on talking about it, because it has to do with farmers. And when we talk about Gambia, the first thing that you talk about is our agricultural engagement. So we cannot do away with this discussion. We cannot do away with pleading on the government to come and aid our farmers to at least avert some such invasion from these hippos and other wild animals that always serve as destructors in their respective farms.
Yeah, very well. That is a very important point there that you made. It's not something new. It has been ongoing, and of course, every year in, year out, lawmakers will, raise concern on that. That is if, the destruction is already done. So what is important here is the government is to focus on not only saving the farmers, but of course, these hippos, because they also have the right to be protected.
For sure.
Now, striking a balance between these two, how to protect the farmers and of course the hippos, the government, it's the utmost responsibility of the government to do. And I just hope that now that the National Assembly member for, the majority leader, Keba Baro, raised the issue, now the ministry, responsible will take the necessary action and of course do something about it. Because agriculture is actually the backbone of this country.
For sure.
Farmers heavily relied on agriculture for their lives and livelihoods.
And it contributes a lot in our GDP as well.
So it's very important. I just hope that government will do something about that, to end the, situation that has been occurring for years.
So from that, we are going to take a look at the Yankuba Touray trial case, which has been much talked about in the country. It is something that is trending since yesterday, and we are also going to give you a brief analysis on it. We'll have a guest, a legally minded person for that matter, a lawyer to also expatiate on the discussion. But before we delve into that, our correspondent was at the High Court yesterday, and he is going to talk on the social affairs of the verdict of the High Court yesterday. So Yankuba Touray, a former junta member of the AFPRC government, has been found guilty for the murder of Usman Koro Sise, former interior minister under the Jammeh-led government. Justice Ibrahim Jaite of the High Court rules. This came following a long trial and hearing of all testimonies and evidence presented by both sides. Justice Ibrahim Jaite of the High Court in Banjul found Yankuba Touray guilty of the murder Usman Koro Sise and sentenced to death by hanging. The particulars of offense stated that Yankuba Touray caused the death of former Finance Minister Ousmane Koro Cisse by beating him with a pistol-like object and other dangerous weapons in June 1995 in Kololi. Here's an excerpt of the judge's verdict.
Having found the convict guilty of murder, the murder of Ousmane Koro Cisse in cold blood, and having considered that this court does not have any discretion under Section 188 of the Criminal Code, the convict Yankuba Touray is hereby sentenced to death. And pursuant to Section 252 of the Criminal Procedure Code, the said sentence of death shall be by hanging.
Well, that was the judge's verdict on the death sentence of Yankuba Touray, who was involved in the murder case of Ousmane Koro Cisse during the AFPRC government. Uncle Nyang, your demba yangi wants to court be te how you for amon yek nga ko te yang for one because witness nga yep. So yo lan nga muna was the social aspect of it. Lo happen on demba si court bu judge bi joxe won verdict am na dañoo hang Yankuba Touray to death.
Wow, nit ñang fo won after that process bi fofu lañuy fekk bam jé be ndogal bu mujjé wacci moy né yoon tek nako loxo bu 10 nak definitely 10 na trop si mbokami after nak wax né nak jéguéñalé yi ak mbokay xarit yi ñom dañ ko ñaawlu dañ rafetlu wuñ ko ba paré tam ñi talal microphone ñoo xamna ni xeyna nekkon nen ay député ci jamono nguur yaay jame nit ñi analyser nañ ko gis-gisé nañ ko ñu bari ñi nga wone this is politique li ba légui nguur gi mo nekk di xex ñi nga xamne ñoon moy APRC ñi tam ñi nga wax ne ñi tay yobbu len li wartona am ci ñi because yobbu len réew mi fo tour bi fo xamne ni fo dem ci aduna bi légui ding fa fekk tour yi Gambia ñi ñoko def den ñeneen ñi tam di wone ne rek amna sax ñi ci joxoñ baran tuma ki di président bi because amna ñi ci tanal microphone ñi ngi wax ne barki demba ñi ngi doon laccé président bi lan TRRC bi lu ko ci gëna metti moy mom lu metti lu moy ne mbiri Koro Cisse tay at bi ñoo démé ni so ñooñu seen gis-gis la ñooñu leen non leen ko gisé ñeneen itam ñu ne non li yoonu président borom nekku ci because nekku doon ci tay mom nekku doon ci jamono yi nga xam ne moo nekkoon boobu kon daal li ñeneen itam lu ñu gis rek mooy ne yoon ci loi la nekkoon loi bi daan na ki nga xam ne mooy Yankuba yoon may na ko tam ñu ne mu ñi seetaat àtte bi so nag loolu moom ñi xam loi ñoo ci mën a xóot waaye askan bi daal am na suñu nga xam ne ñoom definitely ci luñ gis ci ñoom ànd neen ci lii am na suñu nga xam ne méttu lu nañ ko ñooy njegeñaale ak mbokk yi ñooñu duñ ci mës a ànd parce que loolu duñ ko teg ci sa kaw mboka nga nangu ko dontale sax sa mbokk dafa jum ak yooyu noonu waaye duñ ko nangu waaye ñeneen ñi tam ne ne loolu dafa war a am parce que ñoom itam dañ ko def nit so askan bi ñoo leen jàngatee démb waaw gis-gis yi daa utee na démb yee
yeah for sure gis-gis yi utee nañ te métti na tamit ndaxte moom tamit dafa involve in the death of Koro Cisse tamit bàyyi jàmbur la woon magi jàmbur la woon te xariti jàmbur la woon so si vidéo yi doon circulate sa gisoon naa ne Yankuba Touray dafa amoon si benn family member am ku waxoon ne judge bi fairwut waaye loolu xam nga high court bi they have already did their ruling so no one can challenge that so on that note we will go with a short commercial break and as I alluded earlier on we will have lawyer Mboj who will be here to expatiate on the matter of Yankuba Touray's trial. From this short commercial break, we'll be right back to discuss more on that.
Our sun is running out. Our smiling coast is losing its beauty. Our women are losing their gardens. And our children are losing their future. Our communities infested with mosquitoes and crocodiles attacking and killing our children. Communities are in a state of devastation in exchange for new cities, new buildings, and new roads. Sand mining is not an alternative for the Gambia. Sand dredging is the solution. SMJ is a Gambian-owned company located at Denton Bridge. At SMJ, we dredge fine sand from sea without destruction. Sand dredged from sea is the best solution to keep developing our infrastructure to last a lifetime. SMJ is for a better future. Stop by Denton Bridge. Call us today on +220 277 7753.
Welcome to Staples. The Office Superstore for all your office needs. Office furnitures, office equipment, office kitchenwares, office stationery. Get all you need for your workplace. Office desks, chairs, workstation, conference table, computers, printers, monitors, sofas, filing cabinets, water dispensers, microwaves, ovens, air coolers, and lots more. Staples, the best superstore in the Gambia.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying in tune with us. We have come to one of the most interesting segment of this program. We have in the building with us lawyer Mboj from Mari Bantan Chambers. Good morning, Mr. Mboj, and thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
Thank you very much. You are welcome.
So we are going to be discussing on matters of the verdict of the court that was being made yesterday with regards to Yankuba Touray's trial. What is your take on the verdict of the ruling of the court?
Yeah, thank you very much. I personally, I believe it's a balanced judgment, because if you look at the scale of justice, you have two scales where you have to balance each side. And the punishment should always be commensurate with the offense that has been committed. So I personally feel that if someone has been murdered in cold blood, a punishment that is commensurate with that offense should be carried or levied by the court.
But in 2018, Gambia became the 86th party to ratify the Treaty of the International Covenant on the Civil and Political Rights, aiming at the abolition of the death penalty. What happened to that treaty?
Yes, that's an international treaty. It does not supersede the local laws of the country. If we are, in the process of implementation of international laws, the National Assembly should apart from the ratification of the international treaty, should also implement that treaty to be commensurate with the local laws. But ratifying that treaty alone is not enough, because our courts cannot apply international law over and above our local laws. So we are still a step behind in the full implementation of that treaty to make it commensurate with the local laws. That will lead to the amendment of our criminal code and criminal procedure code to abolish the death sentence.
I believe the death sentence is still entrenched in our 1997 constitution.
That is right.
That is where Yankuba Touray fall as a culprit to that, right?
That is right.
So would it have made any difference if Yankuba Touray had complied with the TRRC to at least give his testimony, just like other victims or other testimonies that were filed in by the witnesses, rather?
Yes, certainly. The end result of his prosecution is as a result of his absolute, I'll use that word, disregard, not only for the TRRC, but also for the victims of the atrocities that were committed, especially in this case, the family of Koro Sise. It would have been better if at least you agree to testify before the commission, have a tug of war with our lead counsel SFL, as it happened in the case of others. We have seen that of Edward Singate. We have seen even the notorious Alaji Kanyi. and many others. Almost all the co-conspirators in this case have testified. But the act, that's the TRRC Act, has given mandate and power to the Attorney General to execute the laws with regards to the TRRC Act. And there, he has the powers to say, fine, if you agree to testify before the commission, we'll let you go and wait for the recommendation of the TRRC. But if you refuse to testify before the commission, you fail the full force of the law.
All right, Lawyer Mboch, I will just take you back a little bit. That is with regards to Yankuba Touray's verdict that was given yesterday at the High Court in Banjul. But in the issue of when the verdict was given yesterday, many people raised the question of, the law itself. And many people argued that the law should have been reviewed 10 years ago. Was that the case? Give us, the expert point of view, regarding that matter.
Yeah, thank you very much. Review of the law is not the function of the judiciary. Just like earlier asked about the implementation of the international treaty, that is the function of the National Assembly and the executive. The executive proposes the amendment and send it to the National Assembly for implementation. And then the amendment will take effect. And that amendment will be the law that will be applied by the courts. The function of the courts is to apply the law as it is and not as it should be. So this is the difference. The judge applied the law as it is and not as it should be or it should have been. So that is the function of the assembly together with the executive, that is through the Attorney General's office, who should have filed a proper bill to amend the criminal code and the criminal procedure code so that they will be in tandem with the amendment with regard to the international treaty on the abolition of death penalty.
So was that a fault or failure on the side of the National Assembly?
No. I will not say the National Assembly. That should emanate from the executive, because that's the function of the Attorney General's office. The attorney, but it's not only the Attorney General himself, but I will say the executive. When we say the executive, we mean the president, because the will power to amend the laws emanates from, although the Attorney General is the advisor, legal advisor to the president. Once the proposal comes from the ministry, it goes to the president for his endorsement, and then it goes to the National Assembly for implementation. But unfortunately, those steps have not taken place.
And we've seen comments that were, shared by some of your colleague lawyers that the court was a bit harsh on Yankuba Touray. Was it?
Yeah, it is difficult when it comes to sentencing. Sentencing is a matter of discretion. Discretion is a matter of the person who is carrying out the functions of the judge. If it was another judge, he may have a different conclusion. He may not even find him guilty. He may find him guilty, rather than murder, he may find him guilty of manslaughter. And even if he was found guilty, he would not have been sentenced to death by hanging. He may have been sentenced to death by execution, electrification, or firing squad. So it's all a matter of discretion of the judge. Now, but what I can say about the sentence, I believe it is in equilibrium. When you, behind the judge, almost in all the courts, you have a scale of justice. And that scale of justice is a symbol that this is the case that has been committed, and this should be the punishment. And these two should be equal to each other. So if you consider the case of, imagine the scene where a pestle is used to hit somebody to death. Not only that, he's not given a befitting burial. The person has been conveyed in a vehicle, crash in the bush, and the vehicle is set alight on fire. That is more than murder itself. So, bearing in mind the acts that have been done even after after committing the offense, altogether, I think the sentence is a balanced sentence. So, it's not that harsh.
So could the process of them burning down Koro Sise in his car aggravated the punishment that was given to him?
Exactly, because if it was only murder, he could have been sentenced to life imprisonment. Okay. Simple murder, without the steps that were taken afterwards by driving him up to a point somewhere in Jambur and then hitting the vehicle on a tree and then burning the vehicle with the dead body, with the body to ashes. So that aggravated the offense and that resulted to the punishment that has been inflicted by the court.
So today we're talking about Yankuba Touray, and most of our audience will want to know how about his accomplices. We have not had anything with regards to those people, their cases. Are they likely to fall in the same predicament like Yankuba Touray?
Yeah, that will be preemptive at this stage, because when I say preemptive, the TRRC is mandated by law of the National Assembly to make recommendations to the executive. And the TRRC is yet to come out with its final report. So the recommendations of the TRRC will determine the fate of those accomplices and conspirators. Some may be charged for murder, depending on what they have done, and well, some may be used as witnesses, like in the case of Yankuba Touray. Yeah. If you charge all of them for murder, you will not be able to get witnesses. So you charge some for murder and use some as witnesses. But that will all depend on the result and recommendation of the TRRC that we are all awaiting.
Because we are in a critical stage of our democracy. But first of all, was this really expected, a sentence of this nature, but considering the fact that we are in a democracy?
Yes. Democracy is like in the local parlance, when you do anything, you get the result of that action. Now, democracy, like you said, means you reap what you sow. You get the reward for your actions. So, as far as, like you said, democracy is concerned, it's talking about the rule of law. You apply what the law says, and that is what is done by the court. So that is democracy. It's not a question of the judge just hanging down that heavy sentence on him without having regard to the facts of the case. So the facts of the case, like it is narrated, is what led to the sentence that is handed on him.
So how about the fact that we are in a democracy and in this critical stage of our country, you know, where the TRRC, a lot of revelations came out, a lot of atrocities were committed in this country. Hope this will not be a threat to Gambia's reconciliation process.
Yeah, so many questions have been asked about this. And, I don't think it is a threat. I believe it is a step in the right direction. Why? Because we have to go back to the actions that led to the prosecution of Mr. Touray. His colleagues, conspirators, I will say rightly, who were with him the same day, the same time, the same offense, all came before the law. They respected the law, respected themselves, and complied with the law by testifying before the commission and telling the truth. Now, the case of Yankuba is different in the sense that when he appeared before the TRRC, everything has been done to appease him, to convince him, to plead with him, to comply and give evidence, and he will walk away free. We have seen the cases of Sana Sabali, we have seen the cases of Edward Singate, we have seen Peter Singate, we have seen a host of others who confessed on television. Now, the question that begs for an answer is why Yankuba Touray? That is the question.
Well, he was hiding under the shadow of the immunity clause. Which
does not avail him. It doesn't avail him. I don't know. He has a team of legal advisors, but immunity under the Constitution is limited. It's not general. Limited in scope to the execution of your duties as a minister, as a president. But this is obviously outside the functions of his duties. He was not appointed a minister to go and execute, to commit this kind of offenses. So a crime, no matter how small it is, does not fall within the immunity clause that he is seeking to hide himself. Civil liabilities, such as contracts that he signed, leases that he signed whilst in the local government, official acts, he cannot be prosecuted for that. There is an immunity clause that defends him on that. But outside the functions of his office, there is no immunity, unfortunately.
We understand that the law is very petty. What can set you free can equally drag you into the mud. So what is the probability of Yankuba Touray not being hanged?
Yes, this is just the beginning. There is a host of procedures to be followed. Firstly, he has a right of appeal against the decision. His lawyers will appeal to the Gambia Court of Appeal. That may take a year or more.
Okay.
And then thereafter, he has a right of appeal to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will take a year or year and a half. So he has about 3 years to go until he exhausts the appellate procedures in the country. And then the judgment, after the final judgment of the Supreme Court, it goes to the president for his attention. It goes to the Attorney General for his advice to the president. And then the president will look at it, and again, he will have to, he can commute the sentence and say, instead of sentencing him to death by hanging, I will commit it to a life sentence. Instead of serving a life sentence, he can pardon him and then allow him to go free.
After everything?
After all these procedures have been exhausted. So the probability of his being hanged is very slim, to be honest with you. Because I know, as a matter of fact, having the nature of the president that we have, that he will not sign the death warrant of Yankuba Touray. I can be assured of that.
So me thinking as a Sarahule here right now, the High Court has just given their verdict of him being hanged. And if the evidence that we are presented could not serve him to be given a minor punishment, what do we expect if he even appeals to the court? Will it make any difference if he could not even get a minor punishment from...
It makes a lot of difference.
Okay.
It makes a lot of difference. The Court of Appeal is a court that is above the High Court. The Court of Appeal also can review the whole case and vary the sentence. Instead of death by hanging, the Court of Appeal can vary the sentence to life in prison.
Okay.
That is a possibility. And if he is still not satisfied, he appeals to the Supreme Court. We have seen the cases of Lantombong, Tamba, and Sajo Fofana in the treason case who were sentenced to death. I was in that case. But when we appealed up to the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal affirmed this decision of the High Court. The Supreme Court acquitted and discharged them. So nobody knows what is going to happen on the appellate process. He may end up with a life sentence, and he may be acquitted based on the evidence that will be available to the court at the final case in the Supreme Court.
Okay, now considering the fact, of course, you mentioned that in the beginning that the sentence was a balanced one, but considering all the evidence that is presented, do you think that it is really sufficient to warrant the court to sentence him to death by hanging?
Yes, like I said earlier, sentencing is a matter of discretion of the court. When we impose a death sentence, that is the appropriate punishment for murder. Okay, the mode of execution of that sentence should also be prescribed by the court. Yes, and that is either by hanging, by electrification, by firing, or if there is any other mode of execution of that sentence, it's all at the discretion of the court. That is the presiding judge. But well, as far as the judge is concerned, that is the punishment that he feels is commensurate with the offense that has been committed. So that is a matter of discretion for the court. Another, like I said, another judge may find it in a different way, or may impose a sentence of death, but at the same time may say by life imprisonment. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. In the end, it is always the discretion of the court that determines the case at the end.
All right. Considering, of course, all the cases that are presented, and the TRRC will soon send their recommendation to the president, do you think that if such cases go to the high courts, you know, the same verdict would be given to those people as well? Or will there be any difference considering the fact that they complied with the TRRC regulations to testify?
Yes, certainly. There will be a difference. There will be a difference because the reason for that difference is because these are people who willingly came to answer to the TRRC, number one, and two, they voluntarily confess to the acts and atrocities that they have committed, and three, that serves as a mitigating factor. Mitigating factor is it reduces the weight of the offense that you have committed. Even in the same case, like you said, the same people who participated in the same offense, if they come before the court from the onset and said, yes, I plead guilty, I did this, I did that, that is a mitigating factor. Because in the end, the judge will have to consider that this man has pleaded guilty. That means he admitted, confessed to the court, he did not waste the time of the court, and he regretted his actions, and then he may have a lesser sentence than another person who was in the same group who said, I am not guilty. The state brought 9, 10 witnesses. It took 1 year to prosecute him. In the end, he may have a different sentence from the one who pleaded guilty.
So even in the case of Yankuba, who, despite the fact that he violated the rights, the acts of the TRRC, but if he pleaded guilty at the initial stage, do you
yes,
think?
the sentence would have been different. It could have been different, let me say it that way, because I'm not the presiding judge. The reason why it would have been different is because a plea of guilt is always a mitigating factor in sentencing. Now, the fact that he did not waste the time of the court is a mitigating factor. And thirdly, it is also an indication that, yes, this man has pleaded guilty because he has regretted what he has done. It's different from where you come before the same court and you say, I am not guilty. I did not do it. But in this particular case, we have to be mindful. Yankuba did not plead neither guilty nor guilty. He did not plead before the court. He still relied on his constitutional immunity as his defense, that he is not going to...
He refused to talk initially, but then came that he wanted to talk.
Yeah, if he did not talk, the evidence will be used against him. That means he has been given the opportunity to defend himself, but he refused to do so. And the evidence that is before the court is what will be used against him. But in this case, if a person refuses to plea in court to say, yes, I did it, or no, I did not do it, the court is duty bound to enter a plea of not guilty and then open the trial. And then the evidence will come to convince the court that, yes, he committed this offense before a verdict will be passed on him.
So in the case of George Floyd, that happened some few months ago when he was killed by one of the Minneapolis police officers. And in comparison with Yankuba Touray's case, what is the major difference there? Because that man was not sentenced to death and he was not also sentenced to life imprisonment, or rather was given a particular period of year that he will be serving in the prisons.
Yeah, there is a lot of disparity between the case of George Floyd and the current case we have at hand. This is a police officer in the execution of his duties.
Okay.
The weapons he has, the uniform he is wearing, these are all mitigating factors. Even though it is a case of murder, but it is murder that was committed in the execution of his official duties to enforce security.
Okay.
He acted in excess of his powers that led to the death of George Floyd. But the sentence there will have to consider the fact that this man was employed by the state. He's wearing state uniform. He's in the execution of his duties. He has been doing this for the past 20 years, and this is his first time of committing such an offense. Those are all mitigating factors. But in this case, I don't know of any factor that we can call a mitigating factor in the sense that it will reduce the case of Yankuba. Because where it started from the TRRC, he was not willing to testify.
Yeah.
Everything has been done. He did, I'm not going to say anything. I have constitutional immunity. From there, he went to the court, and at the court also, he refused to plea. That is a lack of cooperation from the onset. So there is no mitigating factor to reduce the weight of the offense that he has committed. If he had pleaded guilty in the High Court, it would have been different. Or even if he agreed to plea and say, I am not guilty, it would have been different. So it's a case of maximum recalcitrance. Sorry to use that word. Recalcitrance is refusal to cooperate with the due execution of the law. So that resulted to the verdict on him.
So I understand in such periods it's very difficult, especially for family members, to have to witness such verdict rulings that was being made by the court. And on one of the videos that is currently going viral, the brother of Yankuba Touray said the judge was biased.
Not only biased, some offensive words. He's a layperson, but ignorance of the law is not an excuse to anyone. We have offenses that are related to judicial proceedings. One, under section 106, subsection 1, paragraph A, if you act in any manner that is disrespectful to the court, either in the course of the proceedings or outside the proceedings, that is an offense under the criminal code. It's different from contempt. Contempt proceedings are when you are standing before the court and you show him disrespect. That is contempt in the face of the court. If you go outside the court, you do something or say something that disrespectful to the court, is also another contempt of court outside the court.
How about within the premises of the court?
Yes, it is still out of the face of the court. Contempt in the face of the court is when the judge is sitting and you are standing there. If this was said by the brother in court, he would have been in Mile 2 by now for contempt of court. Yeah,
now what happens to him now?
Now, it's a different set of procedure because if an offense of contempt is committed outside the face of the court, it goes through the normal police process of reporting to the police, get him arrested, get witnesses, charge him for the offense, go obtain his statement, and then charge him before the court. And then it goes through a normal process of hearing, calling witnesses, except when he accepts he is guilty, then there is no need to call witnesses. But if he denies the charge of contempt of court, then obviously witnesses have to be called.
So do you think in this case that is likely to happen?
Well, it is all a matter for the administrators, the judiciary. Because even if the judge himself did not file a complaint to the police that he has been insulted and disrespected, the head of the judiciary, which is the Chief Justice, also have the same powers to lodge a complaint to the police to get him arrested. He can be arrested for that offense. Yeah, that is contempt. Because we had a similar case in the same court where a brother was sentenced to jail for life. And the family who were there, when they stepped out of the court, they started abusing the judge. But that was within the hearing of the court. So they called them in and they were sent to prison for contempt. No need to call witnesses. If the judge sees or hears what they have done in his face, that is contempt in the face of the court. He can send them to mile 2 for contempt of court. But if he did not see it or he did not hear it, then it is contempt outside the face of the court. Then it goes through the normal police process of arresting him, charging him, and then bringing him before the court.
So we understand that the previous people that were investigating Koro's murder case were all dismissed.
Yes.
So if those people want justice for what they did to them, do they have any place in the court to at least hear their verdict?
Well, yes, every wrong has a remedy in law.
Okay.
Every wrong. Those who were wrongfully dismissed have a cause of action against their employers. Before the industrial tribunal that deals with workers, before the High Court that has jurisdiction to hear their case. That is if they are not reinstated. But I believe from the proceedings that have unfolded before the TRRC and before the High Court, I believe those who were dismissed for attempting to investigate that case will surely be reinstated.
See, think correct, see local languages so that our viewers
Local
who are
viewers,
yes,
yes.
can also understand what is going on here. I don't know the language you're comfortable with, where the wall of Mandinka Fulani.
Let's go to Mandinka.
Mandinka, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Sohna should go with
you
the Mandinka
you can
version.
go ahead.
All right. Comme ka ko summarize the mamen kete jankuno ngalo ne ko Yankuba Touray ya sentence le to death pour ya hang pour na ay fa at the High Court. Bari sa ite be mune funo la mole woto ya fo in angale kan wala bari sa lafta le mol fango ya lon ko membe kering Yankuba Touray la case.
Yeah, coming after Nyamen Angale County, we sa no in Mandinka, Puruna local listeners will understand Kamemfo. Coming yalo lua abenyamen Sohna, I think Sohna, he said it, lua meseatale. We say that in Mandinka. When we say that, it means that the law is unpredictable.
For sure.
Unpredictable walam mo buka long abe laban na nyame ni bita kition. Because membe fudiring fudo kono e kata kotle ya fudo firing ya itandi jojo la wala witnessol memmina e be diamula o kola len jojo kana long abe menkela ida jeko ya menfo ya tumi men toñale ma sutotale o amanke toñati ni nga sutota fanan kuluro membe la kan ay manya menke ani ba kulula menna e nyanta kanyanale so amanyana kuluro la kan men dasata ay menke amanyana kuluro la kan men tambita ay menke so kuluro membe la kan ani nga menke e nyanta kanyanale so jojo la jeroto ay kuluro men la kan wala ka sentence to death wala loi ya muta pour ya fa ka deng julo ka julo bula mola ka deng wala kanyanta afe aning ay menke ni ajuben the evidence ye men yitandi wala diamo ke ko kenya men yitandi wala ka dokota kulungo is a pestle turlang what they use kuda. Yeah, that's right. Kata kamo lipa with it at the back of the neck. So niajuben the punishment that kuluro me ya lakan pruka den ning julola ani wo liparo wala kanyanta. That is the reason behind the decision.
Abuko e ka jibe la kuonin tata nyame ani be kuonin lala nyame.
Yol kanyan. Okay. Nyanta kanyan exactly. So niatara for instance ay kidoleta ay shoot ay fa ni ba sentence la iba falale ya fanan shoot.
Okay.
By he would have been sentenced to death by firing. Okay, niatara ya electrify le comme ya mutale ya kuramota ya bulala ya mas ya fa ni bete fa da mari fanam fala the same punishment yeah exactly. So jojo la sentence kamunta aning kuo keta nyamen afana ya kuluro lande wala nya
ka misal fe wala nya
exactly.
Bari kabri yo kuluro di yala kuno mo jamata ta social media ka fo haye kuluro men di Yankuba Touray la kuluro ning hasta bakale fo aketa wala nyama ba.
Yeah, personally ntama ajewo nyama because ntemu loi dokulalti. I've been in this job for years and ntefonga kitio kele as a magistrate before and kuluro ning offense menketa nyanta kanyanale but ning ya juben meye kudata ay mo lipa ala fafata aning ka julota ka mari deng yalong luato ita fono la ya mari lipa for ya fa because that will be harsher wala kolayata fang dan ka deng because ka more deng it will take some minutes or 30 minutes not more than an hour to pray a newable yeah exactly but punish I menke ka fa akamunta if inyanta fanam fala wala nyama so ning social media fine be democracy la kono like you said earlier people are free to say their mind but even ngafo nyameng the same court we have 12 judges in the high court but near the another judge la ala miro na la jero ane nyindola miro ni jero si fatanola because molla handi kakilol ni miro ni sondo mol mankile so this is the reason Jaite the judge who Justice Jaite who presided over the case ateaje nyameng ayake wala nyama near the another judge like a lady judge okay fine I've seen other judges who sentence people to death recently there was another case, although it's not a popular case like this one. Meye muso rape suffocate with a pillow. Kularamo press fire newborn. He was sentenced to death by another judge, and it's a female judge. So Ibajala, in that case, the judge who is a lady will feel that if it was me, how will I feel? Now, this one is man to man, and I don't know why the CJ assigned it, Chief Justice, assigned to Justice Jaite, but you know, CJ also have a discretion. Discretion walang akajubele mentioning kitio keno anyama.
Dol fananko politiko bulata konol.
Well, I'm not aware of that politics. I'm not aware of that because as far as I know, I've been working with Justice Jaite for years, but I cannot tell you which party he belongs to. He never saw it. And then long, whether he belongs to this party or that party, he even doesn't talk about it. because judges are public officers and they are not supposed to involve in politics. Even if he belongs to a political party, abukai tandi mola ko ntebe nying party karle onka nying party karle support. I've never heard of it and I've never seen it.
Mola ndaro yalo na mirial fana fatatale.
Yeah.
Dol ba fo kan ko politiko be nying kono la ba dol fana yayi tandi ko say Gambia fansoto mo yalon ko at least na loi bundal ye fansoto la pour que kol ke faye without the influence of the executive.
Yeah, I want to assure you, mlafta nying itandila itela aning la moir lalo. Prusa lonko B na judiciary is 100% independent. 100%. Lata wala la kweta maset. Because the previous regime na interference men besoto in the judiciary today is zero.
Okay. President,
Executive, Attorney General, no one la londoto. No mam nenema moy nenema je the president or the minister I telephone ta I judge carry call or a magistrate carry call akai lafta nyinela lafta nyina kenyena lafta nyinkiten lafta nyinkiten. I'm not aware of it. As far as I am concerned, I can speak for myself. But Kafuko executive interference, no, that one is zero. I can assure the public, the general public, that there is no executive ma dadu nying kitioto. The only thing is the former Minister of Justice, that is Ba Tambidu, wale ya recommend pour ya prosecute. Adu fanang luale sembo diala pour ay TRRC nyina doku sone andabulu. Nka mol men foten melni Yankuba da mabeta nyinto ibe tamakan freely in the street. People are commenting about it. Yes, but wo fanang luale o sembo di minister la is the powers given to the minister by the TRRC Act. Nimmen cooperate with the act is ibulaeta for janning recommendation mina watime. But wo recommendation being tel dodota fonola for prosecute la, for te prosecute la. For be charge la modala or manslaughter or for be pardon. They can even recommend for their pardon. Pro president yamfe because national in the spirit of national reconciliation is sontale inata tonyafo dunia be nyatile wala kontela nganyeke. So what that is enough for them to be pardoned.
Kuluro fanala o mu fanna me yalanko akumaya tabake ya for angale kan wala kom ita hangla immediately come I process le soto asa appeal nol o fana sene ande mole saje mole ya understand because o process kumaya andu kuno kom momo ba fola maybe isa hang no anytime soon.
No. Hanging this is the decision of court ya decide ko nyanta afala by hanging kadulu ta ka deng. Now from today I'm sure our lawyers are working on appeal to the Court of Appeal. Okay. After the Court of Appeal, records, eka kitio ke menna, appealo ke menna, kitio birad dati watu, fala bandula, eka be type le, ya be prepare, ya compile in a book. And I can assure you, Yankuba's file is 1, 2, 3, 4 files. Bulk among a file ndingoti file ba katangola. Ibe all be de dalale ya kafunyoma yo samba Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal minao kitio be kumakangol from adati dula fala bandula. Iba be senkanale. Ibuka sedol kumande. Ye memfo. Kaito bala. Ika kaito le jubel. Ni witness ko teng, nying ko teng. Ka Yankuba ko teng ala muso ko teng abare muso ko teng adingo ko teng anen jojo ya la nyadili fa benda fa man ben fa tilinda fa man til wala ka 5 ans. All right, ni wol ya 5 ans ye sembo soto ya confirm ko jojo la kitio tilintale ay kuluro mel la kan akanyata
wala mankanya
wala amankanya isa no ya fo instead of ya fa by hanging isa falino ya for ya samba life imprisonment. Sa samba no kasoto for life. Okay. Ningo fana banta still ala lawyer another found ninga man satisfied. I write soto again, I appeal to the Supreme Court. saying member gena kolandila High Court Justice Jaitila Kitio, Court of Appeal Kitio, it will be kafula nyomala. We were talking of 4 files. Now it's going to be double. Wo baby dedala koteke ya samba Supreme Court. Supreme Court fanamina Jaitila Kitio senkan, Court of Appeal ta senkan, itel fanale na decision ta whether Jojo la Kuluro atilinta amantiling, akanyanta o amankanya. Foba falina, foba yela mandila, foba la atalala, foba la fala. Because malai be fel lala wakang. It's a talano le, but dead by hanging, you cannot put anything on top of that. Yeah. So ningo be process of banta. Still, wo judgment no, iba kila attorney general ya, iba kila president ya. Niatara ya confirm ko anyanta fala. Alright. That's ni Supreme Court ya confirm. But ningo ya falling, there's no need. It's only death sentences. Menkata president ya puruka senka. Ka juben. Okay, president fana sembo soto to commit the sentence ka tala. The president has that power. I sembo soto ka yamfaye completely. Walen ka pardon. Okay, I sembo soto fana afo nteyam fala. Ala death warranto ala deda. Minister of Justice walebe warranto deda ya nate president ya ayasai. When president waranto sign, straight is going to execution.
Okay, okay,
so no. But this is about 4-5 years to come. Johnny Kuti. It's a long process to go. Yeah. So before Nimbe final settle, because ntelanga treason case menke Lantombong and Sajo Fufana from 2011 up to 2016, 5 years. Mbela kitiola janembe futala Supreme Court.
So first time teng abetar la remand custody la fodi ba sambala mile to prison.
Yeah, now he's a convict.
Okay.
Convict. Melbe kitiola ekawole samba remand.
Remand, okay.
Mela kitio banta ekawole samba prison.
Okay.
So now he'll be under prison custody for janning ala case be banna watime.
Okay.
Amam ban follow. Mula mera bantale barama. No, there is a lot of process. Tutaji, menanta kelaje wala siata menketa.
Monketa.
Yeah, there's a lot to be done in the case.
Okay. Abaraka bake lawyer Mboj, molse wota it mabeta mola studio kona nyamen jambi pour ka katcha Yankuba Touray trial case da. Mbe tentula mbe jaila ila mabi na jam.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful and I'm honored and I'm a media friend.
Okay.
I'm in GRTS, I'm in QTV, I'm in ITV, and anytime you have legal issues, you are always welcome.
So it's a pleasure to have you here with us today. So thank you so much for once again honoring our invitation. So viewers, we will go with a short commercial break, and the last segment of this program will be coming soon. That is the newspaper review. Stay tuned with us.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put in to constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for still staying in tune with us. And now we have come to the last segment of this program, which is the newspaper review. And Julden Jai Sware will be taking us through what the newspapers have for us this morning. Madam Jai Suare, newspaper le mona from bio okay. Newspaper jala me bu fa ngeni ni. Sawale we bule nalo no ko bio Yankuba Touray no ko betara newspaper bere kan.
It's the headline, dominating headline.
It is what is trending currently in this country.
Yeah.
For the whole week, okay, you know about kumfala doro. So
currently we right now we have Foroya, we have Point, and we have the Standard newspaper.
Okay.
But I'm not going to start with the Standard today. Let
Come
me start with
you're
Foroya.
always biased, Jude. You always start with Foroya. Okay, we understand you are with them,
Standard.
but
Yeah, Standard are my people. But let me just start with Foroya for
all right,
today.
no problem.
Okay, the lead stories on the Foroya newspaper reads: Court sentences Yankuba Touray to death by hanging. And the other one is Sidia Jatat. Gambia's death stands at $77.4 billion. And the editorial says the death penalty and the constitution. President Barrow gives $2 million to NBR disaster victims. And World Bank pledged support to windstorm victims. And question of the day on the Foroya newspaper is, has the recent disaster received the shift attention necessary? These are the stories. Quite interesting stories there.
Indeed.
But we go with President Barrow gives $2 million to NBR disaster victims.
Okay.
Vice President Dr. Isatou Touray, on behalf of President of the Gambia, President Adama Barrow, presented a $2 million to the last week's windstorm disaster victims in the North Bank region. The donation was received by the governor of the North Bank region, Lamin Sadikan, at the office of the Vice President on Monday, 13 July 2021. Speaking at the handing over ceremony, Vice President Touray said the President's personal contribution to the people of North Bank region was a donation to the victims of the recent windstorm disaster, but that the President noted with great dismay the extent of the damage caused by the windstorm that hit the whole country, and decided to take the initiative by making the donation in his individual capacity towards this unfortunate situation.
Indeed.
Well, that is the country's number 2 Vice President, Dr. Isatou Touray, presenting a check of $2 million to the windstorm victims in the North Bank region.
This is very timely because the windstorm has caused a lot of disaster, especially in the North Bank region, where at least 10 people have died. So this is something that is commendable. And in the midst of this disaster, a lot of school students are currently on break. They are forced to go on break. It's not something that is their choice because it's not yet time on the academic calendar for students to be on break. But because of this natural disaster, they are forced to go on break, and it is going to have a toll on them. So this is a very, very good move, and I hope they will just try as well to at least rebuild back those schools so that the students can go back, because and also help the vulnerable families that were affected by this.
This is on his own capacity as the president. It's not from the state coffers.
Yeah, for sure.
So we just hope that other philanthropies and donors also would follow.
Actually, people have started donating and even one of the political parties, they've also donated to the NDA to at least help them with their, So
that is a very laudable initiative there. We move on. That is, we talk on the headlines of the Point newspaper this morning, and of course the dominating headline is about Yankuba Touray. Yankuba Touray sentenced to death by hanging, and PAPSEN to be conferred Most Respected Media CEO Award in Dubai this weekend. And Barrow donates $2 million to NBR disaster victims as his personal contribution. TRRC awards United Nations Development System in the Gambia, and NCAC DG seeks ratification of underwater cultural heritage in the Gambia. These are the headlines on the Point newspaper. We go with the PAPSEN, one, and he has been awarded or conferred with the Most Respected Media CEO Award in Dubai this weekend.
Wow.
After imagining the winner among a short list of 5 African media chiefs, CEOs from Ghana, Nigeria and Kenya and South Africa, the co-publisher of Gambia's leading independent daily newspaper will this weekend formally receive the Most Respected Media CEO Award in Dubai. The red carpet ceremony will be hosted at the 5-star, 2-tower and 463-room Regency Dubai Creek Hilton Hotel overlooking the historic creek and the city skyline of Dubai on Saturday, 17 July 2021. Mr. Sen will join several dignitaries and businessmen, investors, bankers, and media personalities who will be treated to a red carpet ceremony at the 3,200 square meters hospitality facility in Dubai. That's our very own Pap Sen.
And we will take this opportunity to thank him so much for bringing back the award into our country and congratulate him as well.
Time, you know?
Yeah. So Gambians are actually, you know, they are raising the flag of the country very high out there. So, and just like we said earlier on, when the TRRC was also awarded some certificates to some of their major partners, it is very important to appreciate the efforts of others, and I believe this is exactly what they are doing to PAPSEN and any other people that are involved in it. So this is a move that needs to be, of course, commended.
By all. And PAPSEN has been really getting the Gambian flag to a next level. This is not his first award as CEO, you know, of the Point newspaper. We just take this opportunity to congratulate him. So with that, we move on to talk about the Standard newspaper and their main headlines. It's Yankuba Touray sentenced to death by murder of murdering Koro
He's everywhere today.
Oh yeah, Yankuba sentenced him to death. And of course, Sabali urges NAMS to reject government's supplementary bill, and Brody says Jammeh cannot evade justice, and Newcastle country leader declares July 8 KMC Day, and of course man in court for alleged break-in at Trust Bank, and Mai denies responsibility in Haruna Jatta's killing, and 107 COVID-19 cases recorded, 3 deaths. And finally, on the Standard newspaper is Barrow makes $2 million personal donation to NBR victims. So we just quickly look at the Mai Fati one. Former Interior Minister Mai Ahmad Fati has denied any responsibility in the killing of Kanilai native Haruna Jatta by economic forces in 2017. Mr. Jatta was killed during a protest by the people of Kanilai against the presence of the West African troops in former President Jammeh's home village. As Interior Minister at the time, Mai Fati said most people obeyed the law or be consumed by it. The minister was criticized for making those comments. But in a strong rebuttal yesterday, Mr. Fati said, it has been made abundantly clear that the late Haruna Jatta did not lose his life under my watch. That is Mai Fati.
Wow, that case actually, it led to a lot of chaotic scene when it happened.
The Kanilai issue?
Yeah, it was something that was very fatal. It's unfortunate that he had to lose his life in the process, but that's the law for us, and I pray such things never happens again in this country.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's just maintain our
The
tag,
peace, the smiling coast of West Africa, indeed.
So, with that, we move on to another story on the Standard newspaper. Sabali urges NAMS to reject government supplementary bill. And former Director of Budget Momodu Sabali has asked the National Assembly not to approve the government's proposed $1.7 billion supplementary appropriation bill 2021. Barely 6 months after the approval of the $22 billion budget for the year, it has emerged that the Finance Minister Mambure Njai will appear before lawmakers to seek approval for additional $1.7 billion in a bid to meet the country's budgetary demands. Money, and
the parliament is very similar to the court. So when they deem it necessary, they go by it. When they don't deem it necessary, then that's how they lay it off. But it is always important for us as well to remind our NAMS of their responsibilities and what we expect from them. And I believe that is exactly what Momodu Sabali is trying to put across here.
Yeah, it's very important. When it comes to money, oftentimes billions and billions of dollars are allocated to various ministries each year. But many people or critics of the government will tell you that those allocations will not make any difference to the lives and
they always keep on asking for supplementary.
So,
why was the previous money put into?
Yeah, that's
we barely see the result. We
That's
barely
what
see the
many
results.
people
So
are
that
saying.
is why most of the strong critics of the government are always out to lament.
Yeah.
Because we barely see the result of what our money was spent on.
So we just hope that this will serve as a wake-up call for the National Assembly members to critically scrutinize this bill and, of course, come to the conclusion. So that's the end of the newspaper review from me, Madam Njai Suare.
Thank you so much, Julde Njai Suare. And I will also say, Sohna Tunkara Tunkara.
Okay, Sohna Tunkara Tunkara. Unfortunately for you.
But it's very fortunate, you know, it's very fortunate. I'm maintaining everything with me. So it was amazing having you here to serve as a co-host and, of course, giving us what the newspapers have in this, in their respective media houses this morning. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you here always. In fact, tomorrow you're coming, right? Or is it my, you know, I don't want to mention his name. The other person.
Leave my brother alone.
Is it the other person that will come? Because I don't want to mention his name here right now. I don't want to have bad luck throughout the day. So viewers, that was all we have for you on today's episode of Good Morning Africa. It's an honor to be here and give you the latest happenings that are happening in the country and even beyond. My name is Sohna Tunkara, and I was here with Julde Njai Suare. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay tuned and enjoy some of our interesting programs that will be aired here on iAfrica TV. Thank you so much for your time, and bye for now.